Hi, class. So we're going to start with chapter 4 of the interview. This text I'm using here is actually a text that is allowing me to write a little bit on the side here. So you can, it's funny work, I can write a little side. I'm going to read through this first paragraph and talk about some of the things that are going on. So you remember in the previous chapter, Hester finally, she was up in the marketplace, but now she's going to be back in the prison after her walk of shame and public humiliation and questioning by the town elders. So after her return to prison, Hester Preen, right, that's our main protagonist, was found to be in a state of nervousness. Nervous excitement that demanded constant watchfulness, lest she should perpetrate violence on herself. One other useful thing about this text is some of the definitions are down here for you. Perpetrate is to commit or do something wrong. So I'll link this. You still need these books, but if you can definitely have this PDF open, but it'll be open on this as well. So lest she commit violence on herself or do some half-frenzied mischief to the poor babe. Okay, so what's going on here is they are worried that Hester. All right, so you can see over here to the. Okay, so you can see over here to the right. I put that the jailer's worried that Hester might possibly harm herself or the baby right over here. As night approached, it proving impossible to quell her insubordination. Insubordination, you need to look that up. But that means she doesn't listen to what they're trying to do by rebuke, calling her out for threats of punishment. Master Brackett, the jailer, thought fit to introduce a physician, a doctor. So the head of the jail is thinking, you need to bring a doctor because she is not doing well. He described himself, so here, the doctor described himself as a man of skill in all Christian modes of physical science, and likewise familiar with whatever the savage people teach in respect to the medicinal herbs and roots that grew in the forest. So the man that they're going to bring in both can do the standard Christian ones, the English ones, but also the Indian. Okay, so here we go. We're moving on. By the way, you're going to see me jump around in this video because I'm trying to save time for the video length. So I'll make some adjustments and then hit record again in this application that I'm using. Okay. All right. To say the truth, there was not much need of professional assistance. In other words, there really wasn't. I'm sorry, there was much need of professional assistance. Okay. So they really did need it, not really for Hester herself, but still more urgently for the child. So that child needed it more. Who drawing its sustenance, its food, what keeps it whole from the maternal bosom, right? So a mother nursing her child seemed to have drunk in with it the milk, all the turmoil, the anguish, despair which pervaded the mother system. So what this sentence is basically saying is that Hester needs help, something to calm her down, but the child, seemingly through Hester's milk, has gotten a lot of the turmoil, anguish, despair from that. So that you can see here, I put Hester seems to be passing on her anguish and turmoil to the child, right? It, being the child, now writhed in convulsions of pain. And it was a forcible type in its little frame of the moral agony which Hester printed. So you can see here over to the right that your book is asking, of what is the infant sickness a type or a symbol? So the infant sickness is a symbol of something, right? I told you this is full of symbols. Well, in this one, it's a type, right? It's a symbol of the moral agony that Hester Preen had borne. So you can see here that this sickness in the infant, but also in Hester, really is a symbol of her moral agony. Okay, so it's making them sick. Closely following the jailer into the dismal apartment appeared that individual of singular aspect, whose presence in the crowd had been of such deep interest to the wearer of the scarlet letter. So he's purposely not naming people. The wearer of the scarlet letter, so obviously has to bring. This is the individual that she recognized, her old husband, right? He was lodged in the prison, not as a suspect of any offense, but as the most convenient and suitable mode of disposing of him until the magistrates should have conferred with the Indian sycamores respecting his ransom. So it's a little bit confusing. He's actually in the prison because he was captured by Indians and they are holding him ransom, or they're asking for a ransom. So they're working things out right now. His name was announced as Roger Chillingworth, which is a different name than he goes for as her husband. The jailer, after ushering him into the room, remained a moment, marveling at the comparative quiet that followed his entrance. For Hester Prynne had immediately become as still as death, although the child continued to moan. So obviously Hester is as still as death here because her old husband walks in the room. I think I'd be pretty still as well. Prithee, friendly, me alone with my patients, said the practitioner. Trust me, doctor. Trust me, jailer. You shall briefly have peace in your house, and I promise you, Mrs. Prynne will hereafter be more amenable, shall be more, shall listen better, right? To just authority than you may have found her heretofore, before this time. Okay, so the rest you're going to be having to look up a bunch of words. You can use context clues, but a lot of these words you may have to look up, and that's just part of what we're doing here. Nay, your worship, can accomplish that answer, Master Brackett, I shall only do for man of skill. Indeed. In other words, if you can do that, said the master of the prison, I will acknowledge that you were truly a man of skill. Verily, the woman hath been like a possessed one. She's been possessed, and there lacks little that should take in hand to drive Satan out of her stripes. In other words, I don't know what to do with this girl. There's nothing we can. Okay, moving on. The stranger had entered the room with the characteristic quietude of the profession to which he announced himself as belonging. So he had entered the room as a quiet doctor, nor did his demeanor, the way he carried himself, change. When the withdrawal of the prison keeper left him face to face with a woman who absorbed notice of him in the crowd and had intimated so close relation between himself and her. So what's going on here is just saying that he did not, it's not like the jailer left, then all of a sudden he was like jumping, oh, what's going on, right? He maintained his professional demeanor or characteristics. His first care was given to the child, whose cries, indeed, as she lay writing upon the bed, made it of peremptory first necessity to postpone all other businesses to the task of soothing her. So the baby needed to be taken care of first. He examined the infant carefully and then proceeded to a class, 11 class, which he took from beneath his dress. It appeared to contain medical preparations, one which he mingled with a couple. My old studies in alchemy, observed he, and my sojourn, remember he went to the Indians, for above a year past among the people, well versed in the mechanic properties of simples, by simple, or medicines easy made from one source, usually an herb, alchemy, an early form of chemistry. So there's some definitions down here you can use. Have made a better physician of me than many that claim the medical degree. No, there's this is how I'm even better than most doctors. Dear woman, the child is yours. She is not mine. Neither will she recognize my voice or aspect as others. I administer this draught of the drink. Therefore, by thine own hand. So, Master, give the baby medicine. Hester, repelled, she turned away from the offered medicine, at the same time gazing with a strongly marked apprehension onto his face. Wouldst thou avenge thyself on innocent babe? Whispered she. So avenge means take vengeance or revenge, right? So Hester thinks that Chillingsworth is going to poison the baby. And by the way, there's a couple questions for the sideboard. Robert Chillingworth studied. So we know that's the Indian medicine. Why does Hester refuse to give the baby medicine? Well, she thinks he's trying to poison the baby, right? The foolish woman responded to the physician half coldly, half soothingly. What should ail me to harm this misbegotten, this child that was conceived or carried in sin, basically, and miserable babe? The medicine is and were my child, yea, mine own, as well as thine, I could do no better for it. In other words, so you can see here I put on the side that Chillingworth claims that he means no harm to Hester and the baby. The medicine he gives is good. Actually, still hesitated, being in fact in no reasonable state of mind. He took the infant in his arms and himself administered the drink medicine. It soon proved its efficacy, that it was effective. It was good and redeemed the leech's pledge. The leech here is interesting. The fact that this says leech is if you actually look down further in the page. Right. Okay, it just means physician. Now, why does physician mean leech? It's because old physicians used to actually take leeches, and they believed that if you were sick, sickness was in your blood, so they would actually literally draw the blood out of you in order to kill you. Well, as you can imagine, that would just make things worse. So a lot of people died because they had a doctor because they didn't have a doctor back in the day. It was absolutely wrong thinking. Anyways, moving on. The moans of the low patient subsided. Its convulsive tossings gradually ceased, and in a few moments, as is the custom of young children after relief from pain, it sunk into a profound and dewy slumber, so the baby goes to sleep. The physician, as he had a fair right to be termed, next disposed his attention on the mother, so he turns to Hester. With calm and intense scrutiny, he felt her pulse, looked into her eyes, a gaze that made her heart shrink and shudder, because so familiar and yet so strange and cold. And finally, satisfied with his investigation, he proceeded to mingle another draught. So he's going to take a look at Hester. He's both familiar and cold to Hester. This is all right. I know not leave or nepenthe, remarked he. So this is you might remember this from the Iliad and Odyssey. Leaf and nepenthe are draughts. Leaf is the river of forgetfulness. Nepenthe is a draught that in the Odyssey allows you to go into a forgetful sleep. Remarked he, but I've learned many secrets in the wilderness, and here's one of them. A recipe that an Indian taught me, and recorded some lessons of my own that were as old as Paraclesis. So if you look at Paraclesis down here, you can see that Paraclesis is the pseudonym of Theopestres. It's an alchemist. Okay, so somebody who can do great things with mixing drinks. Drink it. It may be less soothing than a sinless conscience. It's not going to solve your sinful conscience, but that I cannot give thee. I will calm the swell and heaving of thy passion, like oil thrown on the waves of a tempestuous sea. I love that line, like oil thrown on the waves. I will calm it. He presented the cup to Hester, who received it, and with a slow, earnest look into his face. Not precisely a look of fear, yet full of doubt and questioning as to what his purposes might be. She also looked at her slumbering child. I have thought of death, said she, wished for it. would you have prayed for it, or fit that such as I would pray for such for anything? Yeah, death be in this cup, I bid thee think again. Here thou beholdest me, quaff from this drink. See. Okay, so over here to the right, you can see that I put that Hester has wished for death, but she has chilling's worth. If he really wants to die, she holds the cup to her lips. So I want you to go ahead and read the rest of this chapter on your own. This is what I'm going to try with you guys. You can see that Chillingworth is here. We're not quite sure what his motive is. And so what you want to find in the rest of this chapter is what his motive is. Okay, so if you kind of scroll down. All right, you can see on the question side, what's the best way for him to seek vengeance on Hester? What would be the best way? And they're going to have this conversation. We're going to learn a little bit about Roger Chillingsworth as we go through here. So there is one line I want to point out to you at the very end. Okay. As they go through this conversation. You can see here, what is Roger Chillingworth determined to do? So I'll leave this PDF for you guys, and you can go in here and you can use these questions as a little bit of a guide, okay, as to what you should be able to know as you read through this, okay. And I'm fine if you wanted to print this out and bring this into class instead of your book. I'm okay with that. That's not the end of the world to me. But there is this one line right here. I'm going to underline for you. Where's my little marker? Okay, right here in this paragraph. Why do you smile? Inquired Hester, troubled at the expression of his eyes. Art thou like the black man that haunts the forest around about us? Hast thou enticed me into a bond that will prove the ruin of my soul? Not thy soul, he answered. No, not thine. So I want you to be able to discuss that based on what you've read through the rest of this. So read through it. Let me know. Send me an email how it goes. I could have read through the rest of it with you, but I want to see what you can get from the conversation. What does Chillingworth want? So another interesting thing here is at the end of every chapter, there's some questions. You can look at these. They are actually, I've looked at them, they are pretty good. Okay. So if you answer these questions, you've probably done a pretty good job of reasoning. And I might use some of these questions actually, and I think the person who's done this PDF has done a pretty good job asking some of these questions. Okay, moving on. Let's go to chapter 5. So chapters 5 and 6 are kind of a mirror of each other. So chapter 5 is going to be talking about Hester after she leaves prison, and chapter 5 is about Hester, and then chapter 6 is about her child, Pearl. Okay, so I'll read the beginning for you in each chapter, and then I'm going to give you some, just like in the previous one, give you some instructions on how to read the chapter, and you guys can let me know how it goes. So let's just go ahead and start reading here, and let's figure out what this is trying to say, because these are some difficult chapters, but I think you guys can get it. All right, Hester Prynne, term of confinement was now at an end. She's getting out of jail. The prison door was thrown open, and she came forth into the sunshine, which falling on all like seemed to her sick and morbid heart, as if meant for no other purpose. So right from the very beginning of this chapter, this is saying that actually the hardest part, okay, and actually it talks about over here too, right? the hardest part for Hester leaving prison is even harder than possession. It's harder than being in prison, right? Because when she's in prison, right, it's like she's protected a little bit from the world. But the beauty or the genius of the Scarlet Letter is that she's going to be facing judgment from other people as she walks around the rest of her life. Perhaps there was more real torture in the first unintended footsteps from the threshold of prison than even in the procession and spectacle have been described, right? That's what we're talking about here. It's more hurtful than even that procession, where she was made the common infamy at which all mankind was summoned to point its finger. Then she was supported by an unnatural tension of the nerves, and by which all the combative energy of her character, which enabled her to convert the scene into a kind of lurid triumph, right? So that scene, was kind of a triumph in her mind. She can't. It was, moreover, a separate and insulated event to occur but once in her lifetime, right? So that only happened once. So what's the difference now? Well, this same thing is going to happen over and over and over. And to me, therefore, reckless of economy, she might have called up the vital strength that would have sufficed for many quiet years. The very law that condemned her, a giant of stern features, but with vigor to support as well as annihilate with his iron arm, had held her up through the terrible ordeal of her ignominy. So jail wasn't so bad for her, right? The law had actually supported her. But now, with this unintended walk from her prison door began the daily custom, and she must either sustain or carry it forward by the ordinary resources of her nature or sink beneath it. So this is going to be an everyday occurrence. She's going to be walking around, people are going to be judging her, and she can either sustain herself or sink, and there's nothing to help her. She can no longer borrow from the future to help her through the present grief. Tomorrow will bring its own trial with it. So would the next day, and so would the next. Each its own trial, and yet the very same was now so unutterably grievous to be borne. Okay, so he's just using a lot of words right now, saying that this is just going to go on and on. The days of far off future could toil onwards till the same burden for her to take up and bear along with her, but never to fling down. For the accumulating days and added years would pile up their Sorry, I needed some water. Would pile the misery upon the heap of shame throughout them all, giving her individuality, and she had become the general symbol at which the preacher or the moralist might point. So she's just going to be the person. Don't be like that girl, okay? In which they might vivify and embody their images of women's frailty and sinful passion. Thus, the young her with a scarlet flaming letter on her breast, and at her, the child of honorable parents, at her, the mother of a babe that would hereafter be a woman, at her, who had once been innocent, as the figure, the body, the reality of sin. And over her grave, the infamy she must now carry thither. So here you can see to the right, I said Hester's punishment is to repeatedly be reminded of her sin every day until she dies. She'll be judged by everyone every single day. It may seem marvelous that with the world before her, kept by no restrictive clause of her condemnation, not being condemned within the limits of the Puritan settlements or remote and so obscure, free to return to her birthplace or to any other European land, and there to hide her character and identity under a new exterior, as completely as if emerging into another state of being, and having also the past of the dark and inscrutable force upon her, where the wilderness of her nature might assimilate herself with the people whose customs and life were alien from the law that had condemned her. And he seemed marvelous that this woman should still call that place her home, where only she must needs the type of shame. You read that word type, right? The symbol of shame. So she could go two places, it's saying. She could go back to England and hide herself, right? Or she could go to the Indians. So why doesn't she, right? It's like, why not just leave? Why face all this pain in life? But there's a fatality, a feeling so irresistible and inevitable that has been the force of doom, which invariably compels human beings to linger around and haunt, ghosts like the spot where some great and marked event had given color to their lifetime. And still, the more irresistible, the darker the tinge that stands it. So, what the author is saying here is that there is some weird thing that makes humans stick around the places where they feel shame. Do you agree with that? I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if I quite agree with that. Her sin, her ignominy, or the roots of which she had struck into soil, it was as if a new birth with stronger assimilations than the first had converted the forest land, still so uncongenial to every pilgrim and wanderer into Hester Prynne's wild and dreary but life flung home. All the other scenes of earth, even a village of rural England where happy infancy and stainless maidenhood seemed yet to be in her mother's keeping, like the garments put off long ago, were foreign to her in comparison. The chain that bound her hair was of iron links, bound to her inmost soul, but could never be broken. So, as we read through here, I want you to continue, and I want you to figure out why Hester stays. This paragraph is going to give you some clues, so read that. You can see the question here. What keeps her from being in settlement? And then I keep going. Abby, I'm doing this right.
Yes, Mom.
So see if you can figure that out. The other thing that is going to be talked about in detail is what the title of the chapter is called, is Hester at her needle. It's going to talk about Hester's skill at sewing. That's what's going to sustain her. And there's some beautiful lines talking about the irony of this, that she is the sinner, right? Yet she has this talent, okay? And I want you to pay attention to that and be able to talk about that when we come to class, because there's some irony here that a society that values simplicity still is able to use her skill, and that she, this sinner, is the one who's best at making these beautiful fabrics. Okay, so that's going to be. Okay, well, this is the last chapter, and I'm actually not going to read the beginning of this for you. I think the beginning is easier. I'll summarize parts of the beginning for you here. So at the beginning, you can see here, it talks about her name. You do need to be able to answer over here to the right why Hester named her daughter Pearl. It's actually not that hard. You should be able to find that answer in here. And then we're going to go into why Hester is worried. And that just has to do, as with everything else, as to the circumstances around Pearl's birth. So I think you can figure that out. But what I'm really interested in here, once again, how does Hester dress Pearl? It's pretty clear. Just lots of words. So I think Mr. Callahan tells some of his students in here, try and get the main ideas and read quickly, because there's just a lot of words, but basically it's trying to give you an idea of what Pearl is like. What I do want to read a little bit with you is down here. If we keep going. go right here. To this paragraph. Okay, let's read a little bit here. The discipline in the family these days, in those days, the Puritan days, right, was a far more rigid kind than now. The frown, the harsh rebuke, the frequent application of the rod and spankings enjoined by the scriptural authority were used not merely in some way punishment for actual offenses, but as a wholesome regimen for the growth and promotion of childish virtues. In other words, these things were used in order to make children healthy, right? Wholesome, okay, and grow children up to be who they're supposed to be. Esther, being the lonely mother of this one child, ran little risk of erring on that side of the unto severity. In other words, Esther was not a very strict mother. Mindful, however, of her own errors and misfortunes, she early sought to impose a tender but strict control over the infant. Immorality that was committed to her charge. But the task was beyond her skill. After testing with smiles and frowns, and proving that neither mode of treatment possessed any considerable influence, Hester was ultimately swayed, by her own impulses. Hester was ultimately, compelled to stand aside and permit the child to be swayed by her own impulses. This compulsion or restraint was effectual, of course, while lasted. So it's a wild child. As with any other kind of discipline, whatever to remind her heart, little Pearl might not be within its reach in accordance with the priest level at the moment. Okay, so you can keep reading here. Okay, actually, I'll read a little bit further with you. Her mother, Pearl, was yet an infant, grew acquainted with a certain peculiar look that warned her that would be a labor thrown away to insist, persuade, or plead. It was a look so intelligent, no, the word intelligent, yet inexplicable, so perverse, sometimes so malicious, but generally accompanied by wild flow of spirits that Hester cannot help questioning at some moments whether Pearl was a human child. So what kind of child would Pearl be if she's not a human child, right? And this is something that the rest of this chapter is going to start hinting at. I don't know about if this is what Hoffman is really trying to say, but there's definitely a hint in this chapter, right? She seemed rather an airy sprite, after which playing its fantastic sports for a while spreads like a little spirit upon the cottage floor, flipped away with a mocking smile. Whenever that look appeared to her, her wild, bright, deeply black eyes were black. It invested her with a strange remoteness and intangibility, something you can't touch. Whether she were in the air, my vanished like a trembling light comes and know not whence and goes, and know not whither. Holding it, Hester was constrained to rush towards the child, to pursue the off in flight, which he began to snatch her bosom to her chest with close pressure of earnest kisses. Not so much more falling in love, as the church of the Pearl was touched blood, and now utterly elusive. The Pearl's laugh, which was hot, made full mirror, music being uttered, doubtful. So Pearl has the she can't be fooled, and she's like, she made me up. That's the chapter is more about you can't find. What's interesting about you two notice is how Pearl plays with children. So I want you to get on how Pearl plays with children. Okay, what's her relationship with the children? And right here, we want children in. Okay, and what's Pearl do when she plays? Okay, like, this line here is particularly good. Pine trees, age black, and saw the fleeting groans together. And I don't know if any utterances, we just need a little transformation to figure as Puritan elders. And the ugliest means they guarded their children, whom Pearl smote down and uprooted most unmercifully. So, and then finally, the last thing I want to consider is why does Pearl act this way? And that's about it. If you get that stuff down and understand those things, then I think you're going to have a pretty good idea of what's going on here. This is really about Pearl and how she's dealing with the hand of life that she's given. This is what this chapter is all about. Okay. The last thing that is going to come up, and you can see here the question is Pearl's relationship to the Scarlet letter. So read that, have an opinion on that, and we'll talk about it in class. All right. All right. Let me know. Once again, if you made it all the way in this video, let me know if this was useful for you. I'd like to not do the whole thing with you, but if there's anything I can do better or give you more help, let me know and we can talk about it.